Hit it.
Lights.
Go for
Camera.
it. Yeah.
Action.
Action. Excellent.
Beautiful.
Have a seat.
I like it.
Have a seat. All right, let's unwrap our cigars.
That's great.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a special episode of the podcast with
We have our first guest.
with
I'm
Dylan.
so excited.
Dylan, what are you
Good to be
known
here.
for?
What am I known for?
Because we can't just have a random guy.
So I actually
We
spent.
pulled Dylan off the street. He's
Well, it
actually
depends.
homeless. You can. There's a link below
There's
to
a
donate to
GoFundMe.
his
There's a GoFundMe.
That's
Yeah.
not funny. Real people are homeless.
Actually, I can't even afford a GoFundMe.
You can't afford the internet
The internet.
to get
So
on.
instead of buying him like gloves or something, we bought him this cigar.
What
I
better
hope
to
you
be?
enjoy it.
What is
Yeah.
it? Slapping ash or
Grabin Ash.
grabbing ash? Yes, it's all the same.
Well, this is not sexual innuendos.
Why
it's
did
just
he?
a
Why did he have a
cigar
better
pot.
name than we did? And he was just guessing.
Look, I've watched y'all's TikToks and
Grabin Ash.
your I've seen your TikToks and your podcast, and
We only have a
you're
punch.
definitely slap ashing around.
Yeah.
So
Okay, we only
How
have
does
a
this
punch.
work? I'm
You
not
just
used to
stab it
punch.
into the end.
I know that, but how?
You
where's
just
the
stab
needle?
it.
Where's the needle?
That's
Is
it.
this
It's
Okay.
it. That's the punch. So you just put it a little bit in, and then you pull it back out.
We had one guy.
That's what she said.
We had one guy take it, and he's just like digging,
Oh my god.
like actually like trying to.
Oh God.
He wasn't sure how to light it. So that one's just out of juice, which is why we're not lighting with that.
I see what you mean. No, so I have to have a thing, right? You can't just have a rando guess. So
Would you call yourself
Proficient Call of Duty gamer.
an electronics parts expert?
not an expert, but
man.
highly knowledgeable.
Okay, we're gonna go with expert.
Why did I think?
There's a few things you can use. You can choose which one you want me to be known for. I did write for a college football website for the past year.
Excellent.
Oh,
You're our-
that's actually a good
That's
one.
a good
College
one. Last
sports- let's
word
just-
on college football.
Let's stop there.
You're a man.
Wow.
Yeah, you can't overshadow
Excellent.
everybody.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
we're
We
experts
can
My
on
sit
next,
here
stuff.
for
my
half
next
an hour.
option was car parts, and I really, there's only one or two. I didn't tell you alternators and starters
You
and
know,
hybrids.
we,
so.
we could-
Well, we could have had a really good crossover with the electronic parts because I met the granddaughter of the guy that invented the alternator design that's still used by all GMC, Chevy, and GM vehicles.
Really?
And they had purchased the most expensive room on the cruise and 10 other people the next 10 expensive rooms. And I was like, so what do you do? And they're like, oh, nothing. I just go on cruises.
Do you know
Like,
who he designed it for? I know you said it's all
for-
GMC
It was
cars.
for GM in like 1948 or something. So it was when they were switching from whatever they had to modern.
It's funny because most of them use a segmented conductor alternator now, which is what my company makes. But
Interesting.
I say my company,
Well, they
the
don't
company
use,
I work
yeah,
for.
they
but-
don't use those parts because they're not quality. I think you need to light the edge of your cigar. It's not quite.
So I was trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Burning uneven. This is embarrassing.
All right.
I want a cigar
No,
podcast. I can't lie.
What's embarrassing is what he does with cigars.
Did you buy dinner first?
Thank you.
it's a Cohiba. It's a nice one. I want it to burn evenly.
It is actually good. It's very different from most things that I've had recently. Excellent. Have you had that one before? It's the Romeo and
No, it's really
Juliet.
smooth though.
Yeah.
I say as I cough a couple times, but it's really good.
It's the Romeo and Juliet
So-
Reserva something. Select.
Reserve or something? Is
Reserve.
it on
It
the
says it on the
wrapper?
wrapper. Reserve.
Romeo y Juliet. Hang on, it's really dark. Reserva Real. Oh.
Reserva Real.
Reserva Real.
It's one step down from the Reserva Royal,
Mm.
which has a blue wrapper, but it's still
Well,
really
do you know
good.
what Reserva Real means?
No. Reserve.
It's real reserve.
Real
Come on,
reserve.
man.
It's really
it's
reserved.
in the spelling. R-E-A-L.
It's really reserved.
It's just the inflection you say it with. It's like.
Reserva Real. Yeah.
So
This
not that I'm in the business of comparing sizes, but I do notice that I've got about an hour and a half of burn time. Do you guys have a
I
backup
got
plan?
the hiccups, so I might have to excuse myself.
You know water? Well, yeah, we have the, they're called Kentucky Fired.
Mhm.
So they're smoked, the tobacco's smoked in like a whiskey barn or
Ooh.
like a barbecue pit. So when you smell the cigar, it just smells straight like barbecue. And you smoke it, it's pretty normal. What a lightweight.
Man, I don't know how I got
It's a good thing you got a guest. I don't think. I mean,
I'd
just
be by myself.
You got a lot of experience talking to yourself, but I don't think it'd be as entertaining.
I have a lot of personalities. No, usually when the video cuts out or he just leaves, I make little animated characters on the newer episodes that aren't released yet. We're just animated for like half the podcast.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd seen some of the TikToks. I don't think I've gotten into the newer podcasts yet. So tell me to tell the people, where can you find the podcast in all seriousness? I guess if they found it if they're watching this.
I guess so. But I've been trying to make it so it's impossible, at least I'm just too dumb to figure it out, to actually get the podcast on like Spotify or
Apple
iTunes.
Store or anything like that.
It's just difficult. It's
Right.
not hard. It's not impossible, but like I can't find a way to do it without paying $18 a month for some service that helps you do it. So until I figure out how to do that, because I'm not paying for it, I'm already spending money on the cigar. So until I figure that out, it's just on YouTube.
Okay, on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah,
I like YouTube.
just search Grabin Ash Podcast, I guess.
Make sure you put podcast in there. Please.
Yeah.
Don't just search Grabin Ash on YouTube.
It'll be like, did you mean? You're like, no. There'll be a lot of weird farm people with donkeys. YouTube gets dark.
That's what, donkey. Donkey is where that was going.
Exactly.
Ash in a biblical sense.
Oh my gosh.
It's funny. Yeah, I wouldn't say I am a connoisseur by any means, but I do appreciate a good cigar. So,
Well, you know when they're bad.
yes.
That's the first step. You're like,
That's
this
true.
is awful.
That's true.
Not because it's a cigar. It's like cigars are like bagpipes. You only can tell when they're bad. When they're good, they all sound the same.
Is that true, though?
Yes.
Are you
All
sure?
good bagpipers just sound like bagpipes. All
think
bad
all good
bagpipers sound awful.
I think all good bagpipers just wear kilts.
The kilt is what makes it for you?
Might be.
He likes the dress. Especially on those
So-
hairy legs.
All right, before we go any further, what kind of for television
men are
rating is
into-
this?
We don't care.
Oh,
There-
PG-13
it's
rated
not,
R.
there's no rating.
I don't
Everything
post it on
goes.
Facebook because
Everything
I don't
goes.
want to
It's allowed on YouTube, and if there's a sign waiver that has to be happening.
Well, I do
before-
mark it for over 18 because it's tobacco and they'll flag
Oh,
you
that's
for
true,
tobacco
okay.
use. Or at least
So-
for encouraging purchase of tobacco
Do you
products.
get demonetized?
We're not
No.
monetized yet. You have to get, there's like a threshold on
okay.
YouTube now. If you don't have like
Yeah.
more than 1,000 hours of view time or something, then
That's pretty impressive that you guys can pay me and this isn't monetized.
I
That
know.
is impressive.
Yeah.
Man, we
Yeah.
pay you for your college football knowledge,
Yeah.
which we
Hey,
have not yet utilized.
No, that's next segment.
So,
Okay, that's the next thing.
got-
Anyway, tell me
got
about your cigar.
well, I was going to talk to you about my hiccups because
Oh, what about, hold on. What about
hiccups are
your,
important.
tell me about your hiccups. What happened with that, Michael?
So, the thing about the hiccups is you had a really good suggestion. I don't know if you've heard this or not, but you try to drink water. Everybody heard that, but you put a fork in the glass and like just have it like on your face as you're drinking water, because like it being on your face distracts you enough to get rid of the hiccups or something, like the silver of it. So I got the water, and I'm in your kitchen. I have no idea where the forks are, and I'm like going through, like find a junk drawer, another drawer, and then I just pull out this drawer, and it's like a bunch of silver knives, and I was like
Steak
sitting
knives.
there, yeah, silver steak knives, and they're just vat cut. Really, I was like, I don't know if I should do
Carefully.
it. I can't find the fork, man, but should I use the knife? I don't know.
Well, maybe that'd be more effective.
You know,
The danger. With
Yeah,
that.
because the other way to get rid of hiccups is being scared. If I had a knife pointed at my eyeball,
You're like,
I'm gonna be pretty
yeah,
terrified.
and you're like just tilting it about you. You're just like, don't.
you're done when it tilts and falls out into your eye. You're like,
So
I'd definitely lose my hiccups.
yeah. So the hiccups are gone. And the
excellent.
cigar is beautiful. Of course, it's Cohiba, and it's red wrapper. I don't know.
I think it's just called Cohiba Red. It's the cheapest Cohiba you can get, which is why I have it, because I got the cheap pack. But still, I was like, Cohiba, it can't be bad. I don't think they make any bad cigars.
It's definitely not bad.
Cheap Cohiba is like the base model of your favorite luxury auto manufacturer, right? It's still
Yeah.
going to be high quality.
Well, to put it in perspective, that's a more expensive cigar than either of these, even though that doesn't have the like pedigree and name of this.
But this is Real
But it's Real.
and Reserve.
It's the
Reserve
real.
Real.
It's the Reserve Real.
It's the real Reserve.
Yes, but that's like the mid-tier cigar of that brand, and this is the lowest end of a higher quality brand. So,
I must admit, it's really smooth.
Excellent.
It's, I can't handle yet. Still
yeah,
relatively new to
I'm still working
cigars,
my way up.
and I can't handle a real robust cigar.
Yep.
I need a light wrapper and a little bit thinner of a diameter.
Yeah.
That's my zone. This one's got a little bit more pep in it than
Yeah.
my normal ones, and I'm enjoying it. It's smooth
Excellent.
enough that I can I can puff on it and finish this before you guys finish your.
I might have to give you one to take home that's darker, but it's really good and still really mild. And it will change your perspective on, like, I smoked it, I'm like, I'm going to eat dinner, I'm going to, like, have some whiskey or something to, like, wash it down with. And I smoked it, and I was like, oh, this is excellent. It was the Rocky Patel 1990. It's, like, the only flavor I can describe it as is chocolate LaCroix. So imagine the flavor of chocolate without any of the flavor of chocolate.
He uses chocolate very, very strongly here. I'm going to say if you were to have a chocolate flavored LaCroix mixed with water.
A watered down chocolate LaCroix?
Is chocolate LaCroix a real thing? 'Cause that
No,
sounds
it's
terrible.
not.
Okay,
No,
that sounds
it's
terrible.
not.
No, have you seen those videos? What we're talking about is that thing where it's like, LaCroix is like if somebody had a fruit smoothie and burped on you the next day, is what a LaCroix flavor is.
It's like, hey,
Okay.
it's like, hey, this chocolate was made in a factory with nuts in it, kind of thing.
There was berries nearby.
There were berries nearby
in
the
a-
facility at one point in time.
It was made in a fruit farm.
So it's got such a faint taste of chocolate. It's like taking a big, deep breath outside of a Swiss chocolate manufacturer.
It's lighter
Less
than
than that.
Lighter than
Less
that. Okay.
than that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
If
like.
you imagine chocolate hard enough, you'll see it.
It's like that. Like the other thing about LaCroix is
Imagine chocolate hard enough.
that's the other thing they say about LaCroix is a lemon LaCroix tastes like what you taste when someone describes a lemon to you. You're like, that's the extent of it. Like it's that light. That's what I'm going for.
Okay, I have heard this now. I know what you're talking about.
It's a really
with
dark
this.
wrapper.
So I understand the chocolate LaCroix analogy
Yes.
now.
Anyway, what I mean to say is you should try it because it'll change your perspective on dark wrappered cigars that are actually really mild.
So what's
Also, you get pretty good deals on houses underneath airports, apparently.
We do actually.
It's a great deal. I love it.
Hold on, just to pause your thought real quick. Look at that ash. That is some beautiful ash. Look how tightly rolled that is.
nice tight ass.
It's tight.
It's very formed, very
I'm just
well.
saying. You remember that other
It's just
cigar
got the
that was
perfect
like
form.
frayed?
The
and-
edges are there. You can see the.
like
yeah.
yours is kind of doing it, but like mine, the last one I smoked, it was like making
Flared.
a flower. It was
All
so.
ashes are beautiful, guys. It's all good. They're all beautiful.
What are we talking about now? I'm talking about my freaking
Fat
cigar.
ash, skinny ash, ash that
Fat
climbs
ash.
on rocks.
Yep, all of them. They're all good. The Rocky.
Ash that
The
climbs
Rocky.
Have you ever
Ash.
heard the old? Is that the Oscar Mayer song?
I don't
No.
know. What the Oscar Mayer weenie
The,
whistle
the
kids,
fat
hot
kids,
dogs?
skinny kids that climb on rocks. You never heard this?
I don't know if I have.
Man, I thought I was joining a cultured podcast. You got whiskey, you've got cigars, and you never
I
heard.
don't know if that's cultured. Would someone wearing a suit bring up this topic? That's the kind of class that we have.
Ooh, probably. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Because they had a bad side.
It would be the kind of person who wears a suit but is still like in touch with their youth. And you know the good memories of their childhood. It can't be one of those guys that wears a suit and hates his life. That's not
So
how
you're
it
the
works.
youngest person here. You realize that?
That's
Am
the
I?
bizarre thing, is you
Are
would have
you?
thought the opposite. How old
yeah.
are you?
25.
Turning 26.
It's when you turn 26.
April. So yeah.
Yeah.
Turning 26. Well, I'm 26 now.
So I'm only like 3 months younger than you.
But still.
But you're like.
You're the same age as my wife. She's
I
a cougar.
would have thought, if you just looked at us, I would have thought it's me, you.
You saying I look like an old fart?
You think I look older than you?
Well, I'm the most shaved. You're the second most shaved, and you're the least shaved. So
That is
maybe
the
that.
first. All right,
Maybe that's it.
Logan, I'm going to send you the clip to this podcast. For once in my life, this is my brother.
Mm-hmm.
For once in my life, I have the most facial hair in the room. This is
Look
this
at
is a
that.
milestone.
What an achievement.
It's a
And it's
milestone.
because of
And-
that long cigar.
It's partly because of this long cigar. I put some hair on your chest and on your face, apparently. And it's also thanks to
Thanks to our sponsor, S-Swing Axe Company. They make the best axes. They make
But you have to have a real beard to get it out of the
They
log,
make
apparently.
the best axes.
No, what I was going to say, it's also in part due to masks. I don't have to shave to go to work anymore. Nobody knows. We'll actually get back
Hold
down to the
on,
wood.
guys. Right off the sound of this plane, what make and model? No looking. What make and model is it?
I think I heard that it's the Boeing engines that have the like sound, and it's the what's the company? It's the Rolls-Royce engine who still makes
There you
plane
go,
engines.
Rolls-Royce.
Do the like.
I bet you it has a beige interior.
If you
Based off the
you
sound.
probably actually can based on your question.
Oh, that's a freaking small plane. I don't even know now.
I was about to
tricked
say,
me.
you probably can answer this question. If you can name another airplane manufacturer apart from Boeing, I'll be impressed.
Rolls-Royce?
I honestly, because when he said that, I was like, I'm going to say Boeing, because that's the only airplane manufacturer I actually know.
Well, Rolls-Royce doesn't make planes, but they still make the turbines for like half the planes. They make Airbus turbines. Airbus is another plane maker.
Okay.
Because
so,
this
yes,
is
you
a
did.
culture
I'm proud of
podcast.
you.
We know about
proud of
manufacturing
you.
here.
I know about auto manufacturing. Okay, we've established this. College football, auto manufacturing.
We strictly four-wheeled vehicles. No bikes. No anything else.
I won't mention my employer on air.
I was about to say it.
Don't do that.
Since it's not my company, you
Just
can
do
mention
the-
your
just-
company
just
all
do
day.
the-
It's
I
free
don't.
advertising for you, but
I don't want that advertising.
you don't want it linked. You don't want it linked.
I don't.
No, but
No, because then we'll get his disgruntled.
But we do business with
disgruntled like customers.
I'll get my disgruntled feminists who hate me.
defaming all over this channel. Be like, don't go to this company. The owner doesn't like
no, but
people.
we also make parts for Harley Davidson. So.
Interesting.
Okay. Harley Davidson.
Yeah, don't you make parts for like all small? I mean, like there's lots of different
Yeah,
part sizes. It's
we
like
make it
all
for-
Asian things, like all Yamahas.
no, we only do Harley for talking about
interesting.
things like two-wheel. That's the only one that we do business with.
Anything else other than it's just I don't know, like planes or.
No, not-
Do they have alternators on planes?
I don't
No,
know.
they do not.
I don't know.
Not to my knowledge. Well, I said that very confidently.
They've got to have something that
Some
creates
regenerative
juice.
energy.
Yeah, they don't just have.
They've got to have something, but it's not an alternator. It's something similar. I bet it's something similar like hybrid vehicles that have a motor generator. It's basically just a really big. It's the same technology. It's an alternator just scaled up.
Like what's in like how Teslas recharge their batteries
Yes,
when they
yeah,
stop.
exactly,
Yeah, it's like a motor that does stuff, but then when you run it backwards, it pumps juice.
It's a generator.
Back. I mean, if that's what you want to call it, you're the
hence
expert.
name, motor generator.
Why is it not called a motor alternator?
Because it's not got alternating current. That's why it's called an alternator.
You know what's really cool is
I wouldn't even be able to tell you what alternating current is.
Okay. Alternating current means current goes in the forward and backward direction, hence alternating.
Then what does direct current do?
Direct current, well, if alternating goes back and forth, it alternates.
Yep.
And direct current's the opposite. What does it do?
It's
It
direct.
doesn't. It only goes one way.
It only goes one way.
Ah, he's got it. He's
Why
got
does
it.
that matter though?
So it depends on the type of application you're using it
Some
for.
things need like when you send power to your lights with your AC, you need the power to come back.
No, it just depends on how so most of that's in relation to the application it's used for. So direct current is used to power most of your small motors. Alternating current is more common. It's used for a wider variety of things. Direct current's kind of limited. The interesting thing is alternators create alternating current, then they have to be
Inverted.
rectified or corrected so that everything goes in one direction, because the function of your alternator is to charge your battery. So when it goes to the battery, it needs to be direct current, otherwise it's going to provide power and pull power from your battery.
Oh.
So actually creating alternating current is easier than creating direct current in a mechanical sense, but it has to go through a correcting phase or a rectifying phase to actually power your battery again, or power any of your electronics in the car. That's the other application.
You know what I just thought of?
Ash.
He said rectified, and so I was thinking,
Ash.
how much money do I need to pay you to use sanctified in a professional environment at an engineering company? Be like, yeah, it was sanctified.
The electricity was
I
sanctified.
dropped my ash.
Your ash is right there. It was a good run.
Just like drop it in there and just like see.
I dropped my ash low.
That would be hilarious. Be
You'd
like,
be surprised. So
pull up a PowerPoint.
you've asked. All right.
And just
you've
pitch
asked-
somebody and be like, it's been rectified.
You couldn't get rid of it.
I couldn't get
You
rid
got
of
this.
it.
You gotta
I got
want
it.
it.
I'm not. It's,
It
it's
wants
not
to
ready.
stay. It wants
It's not
to
ready.
stay. No, just grind it on the concrete a little bit.
So, you've asked me this question before. What's different, like running your own business? You're busy all the time, right?
I
Versus
tried.
working
You
in
can
a bigger company.
Ask him that again. Are you busy all the time, Alex?
I try.
Okay, there you go.
When you're working, you're working.
Yes.
You've had other friends who work in bigger businesses, bigger companies, incorporated companies who talk about sometimes they have to find things to do during the day.
They have
right?
to create work basically been cut to fake to their employer that they're
stay
useful.
busy is the worst thing in the world. I agree.
Yes.
Now,
so where were you going with that?
I don't remember.
Well, you've done it now, Michael.
No. So you brought up sanctified, and that was where I was saying you'd be surprised what you could get away with in some of those meetings. Most people just brush off a comment like that. It wouldn't even really create much. Like, people would be like, "Oh, that was stupid. We're just gonna keep going because we got better things to do."
Because everybody else is doing the same thing.
But it's interesting. You can definitely see that. You definitely know who the people are that need to create work versus the people who are actually doing work. And
interesting. So does everybody like know who that is? Is like who's basically sitting on their hands trying to look busy?
Oh, yeah, it's
So
easy to
funny.
tell. And there's a lot of resentment for those people.
Well, we know this in a very deep personal way because of this guy that so I'll skip the whole story because we've told it multiple times on the podcast, I think. But
In case we haven't.
we were both working on the same job that was for my company. We were essentially just digging a ditch. And it was inside a deck, so we couldn't bring in a digger to do it. So we had like 6 guys digging a ditch. And one of the guys was a little scrawny, a little short, a little young. He was like 16 or 17. And he's like working 1/10 as hard as everybody else. And this one guy's like working twice as hard as even I am. And I'm like, "Hey, buddy, you doing okay? Like, you're working really slow there." And he's like, "I'm pacing myself as if I'm going to be here for 12 hours. I'm like, "It's 2 o'clock. We're leaving at 4:30. What? Can you pace yourself for 2 hours instead of 12
Yeah,
and we can get a little more output out of you?" And he's like, "Oh, okay."
Like, he goes hard
Like-
for like 16 seconds.
We're like, "How?" And we all turn our
16
backs. We're like,
seconds.
"Good, you keep going at that speed." We turn our backs, look
And we were like
back.
encouraging him. We're like, "Yeah, that's what we want. Like,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
let's
that's
go.
the real man
Come
right there.
on.
Yeah, get it going."
Hey, grow some chest
And
hair.
then we turn back around and he's like,
Completely exhausted.
and we're like, "What?" We're like, "Do you need to sit down? Like, you look like you have sunstroke, how slow you're going." And we all had so much resentment.
It was like if you could imagine like a scoop of dirt in a shovel.
Like a full dirt.
It was like if he took a spoon and like kind of was just poking at the ground.
He essentially got, like, when everyone else goes and like smashing the shovel in to get a full shovel full, he takes like 5 tablespoons,
scrapes the-
puts it on the tip of the shovel, and is like walking that to the wheelbarrow as if
It
he's
was-
done something. And we were all so mad.
And we're just
So-
like, we're paying you for that.
So here's the difference I've seen. The people who will bust their ash,
Now we're
They're-
PG.
they're the ones who will get advancement opportunities.
Interesting.
So
it is
there
noticed.
is reward to
It's
working
eventually
hard.
noticed.
Yes. Well, and it's pretty immediately noticed, and there's always reward to working hard. So
Good to know. Even at the
there is a
corporate
level of self-motivation
Yeah.
that's required in any job. Any job I've ever had, you have to have some self-motivation.
Yeah. So you can't be a slacker forever and win.
Right. And eventually, if you're the weakest link, there's
You're the
going to be
first to
new
go.
people. Yeah, there's going to be new people constantly who want an opportunity at your entry-level job because you're not going to move up the chain, and
Yep.
they're going to look for other people who might have an opportunity to move up the chain.
And when the layoffs come,
Yeah,
you're done.
you need to make yourself
Invaluable.
needed. Yes, yes.
Yeah, if they're like,
So-
"Oh, we can't let them go. They do this thing really well," then they're keeping you.
There's always ways to coast by anywhere that you go.
Well, that's good to
But-
know. We just thought that the corporate chills could like sit around and do nothing useful in their whole lives and like make it.
So
Capitalism is actually pretty powerful. Who knew?
that's what I was going to say. They can, but that company's not going to be well led, and you're going to lose good people if you don't have good leadership in your company.
I agree with that.
Because people who are motivated and do work hard notice if the people above them aren't.
Yep.
And they're going to find a better opportunity for themselves.
My old boss used to yell at me for being late because he's like, "When you're where I am, and you're
Hold on, guys.
Hold on.
What?
Oh, am I not supposed to look at these planes as they come down?
No.
You know, there's an app that would actually show us so we could verify. I think it has a gray interior. If that's what you're.
Gray interior?
What app are you talking about?
It's like called Skyplane or something.
It looks like it's going pretty slow. I'm gonna
so-
guess southwest.
Do we want a good transition here? You ready for
Hold
the
on.
smooth
Are
transition?
we ready to end that thought?
Okay, continue.
What was the thought?
Well, so we'll come back to this, but I just want to put this out there.
Okay.
So the college football link, that app, Tennessee Volunteers fans use to track coaches through a coaching search
Oh,
religiously.
my
And it's
gosh.
hilarious. It's fantastic.
They use the plane, like
absolutely.
the app that tells you the flight number.
Absolutely.
How do they get the coach's flight number?
So we'll come back to this. Do we need to finish the other thought first?
I don't even remember what it was about.
Okay, keep going with this. This is awesome.
So
there's okay. Hold on.
We're about to be in another coaching search for the Tennessee Volunteers. I don't know if you guys realize that. Jeremy Pruitt's on his way out.
Let me intro this section. So we're looking at planes because they fly over every 2 seconds.
Right.
And there's an app you can use called Skyplane or Sky something.
Sky Tracker. Right?
Sky Tracker.
I think
that tells you what kind of plane is in the air above you, and you point your phone at it, and it also tells you the flight number and the airline. So Tennessee Volunteer fans.
So if it's the same app I'm thinking of, it also tells you where that plane departed from and where it's landing.
Yep.
So we're about to go through another coaching search. Jeremy Pruitt's not going to make it in Tennessee
because
for much longer.
Tennessee keeps hiring useless coaches.
That's a whole nother. You want a 30-minute segment? I can talk about the.
Okay, well the 1 second version
issues.
is they keep doing stupid things and they keep needing
We've not
new
been
coaches.
relevant since 2007. That's being generous. Maybe 2000.
That's a while. Is it 2-3 coaches?
So since Philip Fulmer left in 08, 08, we've had Lane Kiffin, then Derek Dooley, then Butch Jones, and now Jeremy Pruitt.
And now
Lane, Derek, Butch.
So why are volunteer fans about to?
Well, so let's talk about the Sky
app.
Tracker app, right?
Okay.
So the last time we had a coaching search, there was a fan revolt in Knoxville because of the last season of Butch Jones. It was the first time they'd ever gone winless in the SEC. Very proud program. First time they'd ever gone winless in the SEC. They were one of the last several programs to have never had a 8-loss season.
Whoa.
And they lost 8 games that year. They went 4-8, winless in the SEC.
Wow.
And it was a really big deal to Vol fans. So Butch Jones was fired at the end of that year, and fans were tracking every plane that came into McGee-Tyson and where it would come from. So one of the leading candidates in Vols fan eyes was John Gruden, current coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, right?
Okay.
He's got deep ties to Tennessee. He's a UT alum. He was a grad assistant here during our championship era of the 90s, I believe.
Okay.
Fans really wanted to see him back in Knoxville. And so they were tracking every flight that came in that was a private jet, not a commercial flight, and seeing what cities it came from. So if it came... At the time, I think he was working for ESPN, so they were tracking flights from Bristol. But any serious coaching candidate, they would track the private jet flights, where they were coming from, and list up the potential coaches from that region that might be coming to interview for the Tennessee
That's
job.
awesome. Did they do something with this information?
I mean, it's
like,
just...
meet him at the airport and like shout at him or something?
No, just rumors flew. So there's a big fence around the airport. You can't get on the runway and see who's there, and the coaches who make millions.
There's a...
That's actually might be a private liner.
That is a private liner.
Yep.
See how fast it's moving?
Fast and small.
Oh,
yeah.
you know what? You see the direction they're flying is towards Smyrna. The Nashville airport's that way. That's the Smyrna airport where only private planes land.
No, there's been some commercial flights go that way.
Well, not
That Boeing was up
not
there.
big ones.
That was
Boeing?
there was a
Boeing,
fat one
man.
up there.
Okay, they're flying the wrong way.
Well, sometimes legitimately what they'll do is they'll
There's
fly
also a
around in
military
circles
base
until
there.
they can land or whatever.
There's also a military base there, and they
There
land
wouldn't
big
be
planes.
a commercial flight though.
You're
But it's
talking
a
about
big
Campbell?
plane. So when Trump flies in, that's where he lands.
My
is at the
guess
Smyrna airport,
is what
not
he
the
was
Nashville
saying.
Airport.
They're circling, waiting for air traffic control to
could
give
be.
them clearance to land.
That could be.
But no, so what they would do is they would track those in, and they were trying to guess.
And on the
Because
blogs.
after 20 years,
I'm not sure I understand.
neither did we.
Neither did we.
That was so long too. If you saw that on his phone, it was like all of the phone. It's like you maxed out the 800 characters you can limit.
So for 20 years, we've watched mismanagement of a program that we really hold near and dear.
Yeah.
And the fans have lost faith that the university and the administration is going to make the right choice. So it's almost like a level of micromanagement from the money source, right?
Okay.
Boosters and fans are going to be the money source for your athletic department.
No, my long ass.
Yeah. Gone.
And so they were trying to see, who are we interviewing, who are we bringing in,
Okay.
and are these guys viable candidates? So there were some that came from Starkville. And we know now that Dan Mullen was interviewed for the Tennessee job.
Okay.
Ultimately, he took the Florida job. Just got a show cause. He's a terrible human being. He interviewed for the Tennessee job, and we were tracking his flight from Starkville to Knoxville, so we know who that was. There's only one thing in Starkville.
So there's like outcry on the forums every time a plane flies in from the wrong place, and they're like, anybody
or
but them.
excitement if it's a good place.
Okay.
Yes.
And
that's
they're
how
like,
they use that.
So they're trying to send a message to the administration through this
to do something right.
bizarre roundabout way.
Tennessee, there's nothing like the Auburn coaching search this year is the closest thing. Auburn's in a rough spot they've had like 8 guys turn down their job because nobody wants to have to play Alabama every year. Nobody wants to be the little brother to Nick Saban. And they've had a hard time getting anybody to accept the coaching job. Apparently there was an inside job for Kevin Steele to take over.
If you don't mind me, somebody who's not as avid into the sports, I'm just going to pull this out.
I'm just nodding because
just a little bit
to keep it going.
for those who are like, what is football? So my question.
Can you explain football to us?
it's like
not that far.
I mean, but like.
1880.
Because you're talking about like the nuance of how fans are influencing the game, which is awesome. But at the same time, have you seen the movie Moneyball?
Actually, I haven't.
Okay.
Oh
it's got
my gosh, so
it's got Jonah Hill and Brad Pitt.
I'm sold.
And yeah, right. It's a great film, and it's based on a true story. It's really good, and it's Oakland A's, right?
Oakland A's.
Oakland A's.
Just on a losing streak, and they have no money, and they've got a cheap
no
owner.
money, and they try to like beat the meta, like the old school traditional meta with stats and stuff.
Right.
But is there, when you talk about coaching, like, is there a massive like budget issue, where like budget's an issue where they can't hire the best coach, or is that less of a
Tennessee?
issue?
It depends on where you go. So at a place like Tennessee or a place like Auburn or Alabama, money is no issue.
Where they have massive stadiums and huge fan bases.
Hundreds of thousands of people every week.
Not like
to see games.
North Carolina.
So where?
Even North Carolina.
Where's the rub? What's the catch? How come they can't why can't they get their
So if it's not money,
shit together?
So it's not money. It's really a cutthroat business, and I don't know, genuinely don't know what the issue has been with Tennessee. So it started when you fired Philip Fulmer. Philip Fulmer won a championship in '98, but the program steadily got a little bit worse every year. He had a solid run when Peyton Manning was there from '94 to '97. That's a name you probably heard of, even if you're not a big football fan.
Sure.
he's on the Subway commercials.
Won a championship in '98.
Yep.
Went back to the SEC championship in
Peyton Manning,
2001.
the guy that did Subway? Yeah, I know.
So he helped him win the championship.
So when he got fired in 2008, they hired an up-and-comer named Lane Kiffin.
So is that like a long shot? Like
So it was a guy who had a lot of promise,
Yeah.
and he looked really good in his first year. He won 7 games after a 5-7 season, so he got better, and he had a really, really good recruiting class coming in.
Mm-hmm.
2 days or the day before National Signing Day, which is where they sign the new recruits, he left for his dream job at USC. And kind of left Tennessee at the altar. And in a panic move to get somebody in before he had to sign the next year's recruiting class.
Because they had nobody.
Because they had no head coach at
Wow.
this point. They hired a guy named Derek Dooley who had a great pedigree but didn't have the experience. But on short notice, that was the best the administration can do.
Sure.
So when Lane Kiffin left the night before signing day, that really started us down a vicious cycle. So Dooley was not the right coach. It was just a bad situation.
Yep.
The administration there gave him too long. They gave him more years than he needed to see that he wasn't the answer.
Yep.
And when they went away from him, they hired another up-and-comer instead of a proven coach in Butch Jones. He was at Cincinnati, had some good seasons at Cincinnati, but had really rode the coattails of some better coaches. So while his record was good and his fruits was good, the fruit of his coaching tenure was good, looked on paper, he was really just building off what somebody did before him.
Sure.
Okay.
And so when he got to Tennessee, where it was really in need of a rebuild and a repair, it really came across as a used car salesman, and it all fell apart.
It shows his weak spot of like, I see.
Yeah, he really was only riding coattails of people ahead of him. So it all fell apart in 2017, and that's when they fired him. Well, at that point, it had been 10 years since the Vols had won the East. It's a much harder sell to convince coaches that this is an elite place to come coach.
Because now you're a loser team.
Now you've had 10 years of mediocrity with a fan base that still remembers championship pedigree. So there's a lot of pressure and a lot of competition with a really, really deep rebuild that's needed. And Jeremy Pruitt's done an okay job. He's just, in my opinion, X's and O's, not a great in-game coach.
In-game?
In-game. So
End or in?
In.
Okay.
In-game. In-game.
Okay.
So he's a good recruiter. He's very tell you as it is kind of person, which is polar opposite from what we've had in the past. And it came across as refreshing to the fan base at first. But
now
he makes too many mistakes in-game because he's never been a head coach before. And so he really had to learn on the job, and that's not what Tennessee needed.
Yeah.
They needed
somebody
a coach who knows what they're
tried
doing.
and true, veteran.
Right. And they're hard to come by. That's really hard to come by.
Are all coaches previous players or no?
No, not necessarily. A lot of
What
them,
makes a good coach?
you have to understand the game well. You have to be able, and it depends on the level. So in the NFL, you have to be able to evaluate talent well and develop talent well. And your system is really important. At the collegiate level, and this is just one person's opinion, at the collegiate level,
A paid guest. A
paid
paid
guest.
opinion.
Paid in Romeo e. Juliet Reserve Real.
Hold on. Do you think you could coach?
No, not without a lot of training. So I understand the game.
What do we got here, guys?
Somebody track it. It might be a coach
This
coming
has
in.
got to be a cheap plane. It's so loud. It's so much louder.
It actually is Southwest. Let me tell
It's
you.
Southwest.
It's actually a nicer airline.
Is it? That's nicer. What's worse? JetBlue?
I don't want to call out an airline, so I'll just make one up. Let's use a random Greek letter like Delta Airlines.
That's funny. That's a good one. I've never heard of them.
That would be a crappy airline.
I didn't expect that one. That was fun. That was good.
So what else makes a good?
So
Random Greek
at the
letter.
collegiate level, you have to be able to adapt. So the unique challenge at the collegiate level is you're constantly getting new players, and your best players are graduating every 4 years, right?
You can't just keep
So you
them
have
on
to
the payroll.
train. It's way harder because you got people who don't know what they're doing, and the guys who know what they're doing are leaving to go play pro. So you've got just
And you only have 4 years
your
to
coaching
develop them.
ability. You need a better coach for college than you do for
You need
pro.
a different coach. So
Different?
that's why when Nick Saban went to the NFL and coached for the Miami Dolphins, he didn't do well. And he came back to collegiate level really fast. He was better at the recruiting.
Yeah.
So in the NFL, you're just picking the best talent available in the draft, right?
Yeah.
And signing the best talent available in free agency. In the collegiate level, you need to sell a vision, and you need to sell
To get them
a
to come to your
program
school.
to make them want to come to you. And ultimately, that you don't get the choice to pick them, or you pick the best,
Right. Because they're picking
80 players every
You go to-
single year.
You
They're
go
picking
you go to the pros again, and you're like, hey, you ever thought about going to get a second master's?
Well,
You can. I mean, what are you really doing?
You can only play
after
for 4 years,
and you don't get paid.
and you don't get paid.
But just be like, look,
Which is a whole nother issue.
Hold on, man.
How many birth certificates do you have currently? How many do you want?
Can you? Do you need to repeat college?
You didn't do well.
So if you played for 4 years,
What's your end game? Like, do you want to be,
Do you want to be great or do you want to make money?
Have you ever considered business?
do you want to be a
Do you
legend?
want to be a CPA? You know how much they make after?
Well, now they're talking about paying college players.
They are.
Well, that would make sense because they're like
They're professional-ish
They're-
athletes. Well, they already get their school
they're
for free.
generating so much revenue.
They get all their alcohol for free.
Alcohol.
They get all
Hang
their
on.
drugs
Whoa,
for free.
Whoa. I don't think this is kosher. I don't think that.
So, real talk.
They get all the women.
No,
for free.
no, I was going there. Real talk.
They get all the ash they want.
How important is the female population to a football player signing at a college?
You're over there. Look.
That's
The
a
Southern,
loaded question,
the
man.
Southern College is great, but have you been to our
Have you
campus?
seen our cheerleader?
Have you been to our campus, sir?
I don't know, because Arizona State's
me-
never a powerhouse in
let me
college
give you
football,
a-
so apparently it doesn't matter that much.
Let me give you a tour on our next private airline.
Now, that is going to the military.
That's
for
an AC-130, like basically. Maybe not that.
What's the transport version? It's not the AC-130.
Oh.
DC-10?
No, it's not.
80
You
years
think
ago.
this is transport?
Did you go back to alternating current and direct current, AC and DC?
They use an alternating current motor on
That's
there.
not.
propeller
that's not
planes.
it.
What's the name of those?
TNT's not AC/DC, is it?
TNT?
Song?
No, that's-
Is it?
Yeah.
Damn, okay.
What, the song?
Dynamite, yeah.
Oh.
TNT.
Yeah, you're
I
right.
was like, no.
Is this a musical podcast? Will you sing
No,
for us?
No, I was just talking about. I was like, are you saying that TNT is an electrical product?
I remember being a real young kid, busting out some AC/DC. I was like, yeah, TNT. I'm done. My dad's like, he's talking about his dick, right? And I was like, oh, man.
So
Weird Al made a similar joke. He was like, what do you think, I have pianist envy? And I said that to somebody. My dad goes, the real joke is penis envy. I'm like, oh no.
So, we talked earlier tonight around
Hey,
dinner.
So professional piano players called pianists, right?
Pianist
Right.
envy.
What about professional race car drivers?
Race car envy?
Racists?
Oh my gosh.
I knew where that was going.
I've got a TikTok to show you.
What about professional rappers?
Rapists?
Yeah.
Rapists? Man, if my phone
You
wasn't...
said it!
Okay.
It came out your mouth.
No, that's the Vine. What's worse than a rapist? A child.
Child.
No, a child rapist.
I've seen that. So,
Anyway, where were we?
so we talked earlier over dinner
Yes.
about the possibility of a soundboard, right? You think they're outdated and dying. But I think it would be a really good use for some of the best sound clips from this podcast. Things like that would be like dick envy. Like, that's one of your
Exactly.
Bringing the soundboard.
pianist envy.
80-20.
80-20. So I want to know, was this on a live podcast that you guys had the 80-20 discussion? Or is this an off?
No, we
No,
just
no,
have
no.
it
This is a 15-year thing.
I don't know if it's 50.
This sounds
Maybe
like
10-year.
it sounds like great radio, guys. All right, what is the beef here? Where's the beef?
Okay.
It's not okay.
Okay,
It's-
where it started. I'll tell you where it started.
Fine, I'll let
okay,
you go
before
first. That's
when we
fine.
were just young children making videos in the backyard, we always talked about getting to 80-20, but we always talked about when we're making movies, should we write a really intelligent script, shoot it really well, because people there's a smoke ring. Whoa. Because people are inherently smart and they're gonna like figure out your script as they're watching it. And they're like,
Right.
oh, I know what's about to happen. Like, it's so predictable. Or is that just like the top 10 or 20% of people who are just geniuses and everyone else is just gonna watch the movie and have a beer and that's all they're gonna do? And I'm always been of the opinion that people are basically just dumb and they're just gonna watch the movie. They're not here to analyze every plot point and why there's plot holes everywhere. So I'm like, just pump out as high quality as you can, but low budget trash. And people will love it. And he's like, no, make the best thing you can. I'm like, yeah, but only 20% of people will care. So you spent twice as much, or some would say 80% as much, or more, and only getting 20% better results. So I'm spending, say, $800 on my movie. He's spending $20,000, and he only gets a 20% better result. And I'm like, if everybody's basically dumb anyway, because 80% of people are average, and 20% of people are exceptional or stupid,
You're at 120% right now.
no, 20% of people are in the, like,
Oh, okay.
10% of people are
10 above, 10 below. Okay.
10% are geniuses, 10% are idiots, everybody else is in the middle.
Okay.
If you're
So-
making movies for that population,
We take this break from our podcast to bring you our sponsor, Military Airlines.
no,
Nope,
Delta.
Southwest.
That's
That's Delta.
Southwest. That's Southwest.
The Southwest is
No, the
red,
red-
that's red and blue.
That's
That's
traditional. Yeah, traditional red mark is Southwest.
Delta
yeah.
is white and red. Isn't it?
Oh.
Yeah,
No, I thought it
Delta
was
is blue and
and-
red. Blue and white. Sorry.
Delta. Okay.
Blue. Southwest. Southwest is blue.
There was a
and red.
It looked
Yeah.
like a triangle, not the stripes.
So Delta looks like the off-brand of
So-
everything you buy in the store. It's like Southwest to Delta is.
Okay, so
You know,
80% of
I
people
still
fly
think
Delta
Southwest
and hate
is
it.
worse than Delta.
That's true. That's true. So there is the aspect of when I go to the grocery store, I buy generic brand because it's close enough,
It's close enough.
and I don't want to pay the.
So 80% of
80%
people
more.
don't
That's
want to
fair.
pay. Well, 80% of people
That's a fair point.
either don't want to pay more.
He brings up an excellent argument, and it's a very simple one, which
that's
is
what-
the premise of the issue. The simple argument is, if I can cut the costs and produce generic, 80% of people will love it, right? My point is that 80% of people don't know what's good or bad. They get their information from the 20% of people who do. The top 20% of people who
That's
know
fair.
what's good or bad tell the rest of the sheep what to do and what is good. And they're like, oh yeah, it is good. And it is good, therefore they're not wrong. And because they're not wrong and you're making a superior product, you create the longevity of that product and it becomes a trademark. You become the bar, you become the staple, and you become the meta at the top. And that's the goal. And if you can hit that, then you're gonna the longevity of your product that you're creating is so timeless that it's worth more.
Yeah.
And the reputation and status and everything that else comes with it is worth more than just producing generic garbage forever.
Which I have never argued that point. I've only argued that when you're starting out and you have no money
I
anyway,
guess I didn't know what the meta, or like how to articulate the meta, and like, you know, if you can get to the very tippy top, then everybody's creating generic off-brand against you, which is only more.
Which then shows how much more you're worth, because they're all cheap.
Because it's like, because then people are like, is that real Gucci or is it not? I can't tell. Well, what is real Gucci? You know, then you get like this consumer education, free branding and marketing, which is like, oh, it's only real. This is how you can tell the off-brand. It's only real. And then you get people creating the so this is how Ringling literally started as an art school and became the top art school in the country.
Who?
Ringling. It's Ringling.
I thought you said Yingling for a
I
second.
did too.
Not Yingling.
I thought that, and then my next thought was like the circus?
Like Ring-a-ding?
So there's an art school called Ringling. It's based out of Florida. It's where my dad went. He found it as the top art school in the country, and arguably the world. And all of really good, not the best artists, but really good artists of, you know, the past 20, 30, 40 years go on producing movies for Disney and animations and all this other stuff, came out of Ringling. And Ringling started by trying to copy the guy Ringling. His goal was to teach artists how to fake top tier paintings and sell them. And so he would go and he would try to forge a really nice like Mona Lisa or something and try to sell it as the Mona Lisa. And people couldn't tell because he was so good at art and he was so good at copying art and teaching his students how to copy art that was his whole thing. And then, you know, he got caught or whatever, and so it like collapsed. But the whole point of it was, hey, I'm actually really good at teaching art because I've been trying to, you know, mimic all these other artists. And so what I'll do is I'll just start a school, because that's what I've basically done, and that's how Ringling came about.
Imitation is the finest form of flattery.
It is the finest form of flattery. I agree.
You make a good point that I hadn't thought of, because I kind of conformed to your school of thought that...
Which in a second I'll tell you why that's not my school of thought, but why I love it. But continue.
If you're appealing to the majority, you're never going to please everybody. If you're appealing to the majority, that's the best business model. But I see what you're saying. So some of the... And I really think the information age has amplified what you're talking about, because the 20% who really deeply care about a product or deeply care about a genre or a show or a sport, they now have more and more avenues to communicate the intricacies you're talking about to the people who like it but never really cared enough to look into it more. And the best example I can think of that, I'm a big Game of Thrones fan.
Yeah.
Right, at face value, it's a great show, right? You've probably never seen it. You watch Game of Thrones?
Still trying to start it with Nicole.
Still babies here, man.
Listen.
Maybe I am the oldest person.
Hold on. Lord of the Rings.
I haven't seen Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter,
Lord.
Game of Thrones,
if you watch
Castaway.
Anything you've ever thought of as classic, hasn't seen it.
If you ever watch Game of Thrones and or Lord of the Rings, you will start growing more facial hair. That's really the catalyst for me being able to finally grow a little bit of a beard. Because I watched the whole Game of Thrones series.
Why do you think he's insecure about his beard? Why you gotta throw him under the bus? Because assuming that he wants what you're assuming, don't assume the man's gender identity.
So Game of Thrones is a good example of this. It's very popular, so it should be something.
In my defense, I bought Christmas presents instead of new razors. Thank you very much.
So Game of Thrones is something that a lot of people really like, and they can probably connect with this. So it's a good example of this, right? At face value, it's a great show, and you can watch it, enjoy it. It's great cinematography. It's great script writing through the first 6 seasons. They're great books. But with the information age, you can go on YouTube which is the finest form of sharing information currently. Screw Spotify and Apple. You know?
Yes.
YouTube's really where you want to go to get cutting edge information.
And that's where all the critics hang out and tell you what to think.
Not even critics.
Okay.
Your 20%. People who really care about it can go on there, and there's hours, days, years worth of videos where people are talking about themes and motifs and key points and conspiracy theories,
visual effects mistakes, and things you'd never notice.
Everything from why, how are the books going to end based on all the motifs that are in the first, the ones that are out right now, versus why the last season was bad and is not going to be what's in the books. And it makes the 80% who wouldn't have cared about that more knowledgeable to where that matters more now. And that's really how you become a product.
I feel really dumb. I'm drawing a blank on who created Star Wars.
George Lucas.
George Lucas. Thank you.
I almost said Steven Spielberg.
I
thought it, and then I was like, wait a minute.
I was like, Steven Spielberg.
Can I smoke what you guys are smoking? You forgot who created Star Wars?
For a moment.
For just a moment. George Lucas, thank you.
I wouldn't even begin to claim that I'm a Star Wars person. I am moderately ashamed to admit my wife introduced me truly to Star Wars. My dad liked Star Wars, but never was the Star Wars kind of guy. So I never watched the Star Wars movies until my wife, who is a big Star Wars fan, made me watch them.
Can I just point out, though, that
movies.
you are a names person?
Names.
You knew the name of all the coaches of UT for the last 20 years.
Yeah, so you
I don't know the name of
so
anybody
names.
I've known for 20 years.
So I am a random trivia knowledge kind of person. I know things that don't matter.
We fill our heads with things that aren't important.
No, you know things that matter too. You're discrediting yourself.
No, we know things that matter, they're just not important.
Well, one could argue that really sports are just a game, which is really going to upset a lot of people.
No, what will really upset a lot of people is that video games are just a game, and we know more about a single video game than we know about probably anything else on this earth.
Which game?
Overwatch. We know,
I don't know anything about Overwatch.
We know every character.
Who's the gunslinger? Who's the gunslinger? That's the only one I like.
McCree.
Okay,
so look, just real quick, I think we should do a trivia podcast at some point, an Overwatch trivia, because I think that head-to-head, both of us could probably name the name of every character, the name of their abilities, the name of their weapon,
their health points,
how much health they have, how long each cooldown on each ability is.
Yeah.
What else is there?
There's
their class.
Little weird trivias like what's the percentage of one
armor
person on
shields
carts versus 2-3 people on carts?
No, not even that. I'm just talking about the characters.
Whatever.
Like percentage of health that is armor, that is shields.
Yeah.
What their ultimate ability is, how hard it is to charge.
Different metas in the game.
Who's the best character?
There is no best character.
Which character?
It's so well balanced.
That's what meta is which is the best one right now. That if you just play it, you'll win.
Well, I know that. I know. So my brother is big into games.
Yeah.
And Overwatch is, and I like video games, but that's one I don't know well.
Okay.
It's just like saying what's the best character in the game of chess.
No, it's even
that's
better.
not true because the Queen's
Queen
the best.
is
No. Even better for you. What's the best gun in Warzone?
Okay.
So if you're inside a building, what's the best gun? A
An
pistol?
SMG.
Okay, so what's the best gun in a field? Not an
Assault
SMG.
rifle.
So what's the best gun in the game? It's highly contextual. It's also highly contextual based on what your squad has.
What I was going to say was, there was one character that anytime... Is character right?
I think it's called Hero.
Hero.
Yeah, they call it
Okay,
Hero.
so there's one
Character
hero
whatever.
that anytime my brother would have somebody on the other team play as this hero, he'd yell obscenities that, are much worse than Ash.
It's broken.
It was probably either Roadhog or Junkrat
Or
or
Doomfist.
Widow.
No, it was a robot.
Oh, Bastion.
Bastion, yeah.
It can't be Zen.
No, it's definitely
It was the one that had
Bastion.
it was one that was definitely OP when it first got into the game. It wasn't one of the original heroes. It was one of the updates or something. And he came in, and basically he would just set up and gatekeep because he had such an overpowered minigun or something.
Okay, that's
like that.
definitely Bastion.
Okay,
he was Bastion. I think he was part of the original game.
He was part of the original.
Changed him so many times.
Him a lot.
Okay, well, after one of the updates or something, he became the OP, and my brother would absolutely cuss out the TV because people would just sit at one of the objectives and mow people down as they came around corners.
Oh, it's pirate ship meta is what he means.
Yeah, probably pirate ship meta.
He sets up on the cart. the cart moves. You
got
set
two
up on
shields.
it, shoot everybody, 2 shields in front of you, so they have to blow through like 3,000 damage of shields back when shields were good.
Yeah.
And it was on the same patch where the longer you shoot, the smaller the spread becomes.
Oh my gosh.
So you're lasering
Yes.
people in the head
Yes.
across the map.
Yeah.
So you're lasering down widows.
Yeah, that's not a
Nobody
thing
can do
anymore.
anything, and you would just win entire games.
Yep.
By
This is the same guy.
They called it the point
So
and
is he the
click
best
meta.
then?
Not anymore.
the time,
they
They
rebalanced.
nerfed him.
They nerfed him.
They
Yeah.
reduced the amount of damage per bullet. They increased the spread. They decreased the range, and now he's like counterable, but also strong enough to never be used.
So the game is actually really interesting right now because each like skill tier, like if you're kind of good at the game, there's a certain player base that you'll want to play, and then as you get better, other players will get so good at other characters that they can just counter you. And then so when you talk about meta, you're really talking about what the very top tier level people play, but there is kind of like a meta in the mid tier because people just can't aim.
Yeah, if you can't
Right.
aim, what's the easiest thing to hit people with?
Right, exactly.
We can scoot forward if you guys.
I'm good. I'm good. I was just sitting.
I'm
looking
getting
forward
cold
to
too.
it.
I'm freezing.
I'm
Do
cold.
we need to stoke the fire a little bit?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Let's pause the Overwatch discussion.
'Kay.
But anyway, we need to have an Overwatch trivia podcast
We
where
do.
we just do that because we know way too much about it to not have a whole podcast about
Did
it.
you let it burn out?
You know,
Rookie.
you
I thought this was a cigar podcast.
I was talking about Overwatch, and I just
he gets on a roll.
you just
Hey, that's high quality stuff nowadays. Hard to come by.
you know we had a party one time during like towards the very beginning of quarantine, and it was BYOB and also BYOT, or bring your own toilet paper, or BYOTP. Yeah,
You had a party at the beginning of quarantine. Is that not an oxymoron?
No, we did it. We did it.
we did it because we're young and wild and free.
Yeah, and we also have a 0.23% chance of dying of it, so I'll take those odds.
All right, you guys just lost a few viewers. I hope you know that.
I hope they
You know
can
what?
leave.
They're the kind of viewers that I don't want.
They're the 80% we don't care about.
No, they're the 20% we don't care about.
No,
think
no.
they're that-
I think 80% of people are dumb.
You think there are that many Karens in the world that
Okay,
really
so,
care
so this is
deeply?
okay. We're talking about 80-20. We both agree that 80-20 is true, but he believes
Sorry,
that
Ash. There's so much Ash.
80% of the population is dumb.
I don't need your
and
Ash all
20%
over me.
Is smart, and I was of the opinion that 80% of the population is smart and 20% are dumb. Since working in retail, I've flipped those,
Yes.
and I come up full circle, and I agree with him that 80% of the population is indeed retarded.
Well, if you look at an IQ chart,
If you'd fallen right there, I don't know that I would have stopped.
Well,
laughing
IQ
at you.
chart is like, if you put 100 is
okay,
the general population. That's an IQ chart because
yes,
100 is average.
100 means against the entire population, you scored exactly in the middle. If
That's
you
right.
get 100, which makes you exactly average.
Right.
And everybody in the middle 68% of a bell curve graph
Right.
is considered average because 68% on either side
That's right.
total, which is 34% on each side of the middle.
Yes.
Is one standard deviation, which is, I think, goes down to 85 and up to 115. So it's 15 points either way.
So where do you think you'd
So
score?
if you're exactly average, that means you have an IQ between 85 and 115, which means 85 is like you're a little bit slower than
Okay.
most people. You'll
Yeah, I'm
probably
tracking
never
that.
have the top job. 115 is you have enough intelligence to go to college to do anything you want to do. You just have to have the work ethic to do it. But you're not a genius. And then you get to 115 to 140 is like very smart.
Hyper intelligent.
140 to 160 is like you're autistic basically because you're so smart you have no social ability
Yeah.
because it's just not enough space in your brain to hold all of it.
My cousin is quite so the ASVAB when you take it to
You mean the ASHFAB?
no. Yeah. You take this
That Fab Ash.
You take this test to make the army is like, okay, we can accept pretty stupid people, but we really need them to have like an IQ of at least like 60. Like they need to have an IQ of like 60, 65 in order to get in.
I think it's
Right.
83.
83 is the IQ.
Okay, so can we just... What kind of plane is this before I...
Southwest,
That's-
baby.
That's Southwest. The last one...
That was definitely
Red.
the same as last time.
Same as last time.
You guys are blind.
Look at it now.
Look at the tail.
No, you guys
Is
are
it red?
blind.
That's the exact
red,
same
yellow,
as last
and blue.
time.
The last one was dark blue and yellow. Or dark blue and... Oh, now I'm confused.
All right. So.
Okay, real quick, can I just clarify what IQ is? It is
The ability to learn.
Ability to learn at a certain speed.
Mm-hmm.
So it has nothing to do with being dumb. You can have a high IQ and be an idiot.
We're not talking about. Yes, that's a good distinction because information doesn't necessarily mean that you have a high IQ.
If you have an IQ of 85, you have the intelligence to be a billionaire. You just also have to have work ethic and drive and motivation. And it's going to take you a lot longer because you don't have the mental ability.
You have to work. You have to work extra. You have to compensate with work ethic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean you're dumb. It just means you are going to be slower than everyone else who has an IQ of 120.
Right. Yes. So there's the ASVAB is it's the military's IQ test.
Yes.
It really is, because you go in, it's identical to an IQ test, and my cousin got the absolute highest score that you can get. Like, it maxed out, and the ASVAB maxes out at like 120 IQ.
Yeah.
Right. So anything above 120 IQ, they can't even quantify it.
Yeah.
Right. But he
he
literally maxed it out. Like, was so right on everything. Didn't study for it at all. Just walked in, took it, and he's like, everybody that I told that was so mad at me. I could have been a nuclear physicist for the Army, whatever. It didn't matter. I could have been
I think technically you're not supposed to be
a doctor astronaut,
a rocket
Dr. Professor Patrick.
I think it's called a rocket surgeon.
Rocket surgeon, yeah.
That's not rocket surgery.
That's not rocket surgery. Let's go.
Yes, and he's also.
But he's so, like, his pitfall, and I wouldn't say it's a pitfall, he gets to choose how he wants to live his life, and he's chosen a certain lifestyle, which doesn't equate to billions of dollars, even though he has the IQ to do that for sure, or solve, world hunger or something. He's chosen to, live on his own, off the grid. He wants to, grow shrooms and just enjoy life.
What, like shiitakes?
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
Or should I say
Maybe that's
ash
the power play,
talkies?
though, guys. Can we talk about this?
It really is the power play. It's like I'm so, like, my interests are so far beyond money as like a conceptual thing that I'm not even,
That's so
I
funny.
don't even care.
So
He's transcended money. You know what I mean?
So one of my other fields that I enjoy and I dabble in is backpacking and outdoors and things like that. And I can't sit here and lie to you and say that I haven't thought about how much nicer it would be to just go off the grid on
did
bad days that are frustrating. So I don't think that's actually the power play or anything, but you could convince me. If he had a high enough IQ, he could convince me that was the power play.
Well, the reason it's a power play, for me, is that if you live in the woods of Appalachia, because you can't move anywhere else and do anything else useful, that's not a power play. Because you can't go anywhere else. But for him, it is a power play. Because he could do anything, he could be anything, and he chooses the simple lifestyle, which maybe...
Do you have a cutter?
A cutter?
You have the punch.
Or the punch?
Did you not see the beginning of the podcast?
Where's the...
I used the punch.
Where is it?
But-
It's yellow. Is it in your pocket? Oh my gosh.
My pocket.
Okay, here, we're looking at, what is it? Is that 75 IQ?
Maybe below.
I went below.
Oh yeah, let's get some more drink. We pause
Perfect, yeah.
for a word from our sponsor.
Pause 10
As
seconds
doing
for station
access.
identification. That's 10 seconds for station ID. YouTube.
Are you trying to get more draw or something?
Yeah.
Let me just get, I'm about to switch. This one's basically done.
Yeah. You might want to, I might take one too.
All right, let's pause this podcast.